All praises to the Creator Yah. So we're going to be going over some things. So um yesterday on the video that the live that I did, I told you about a book called The Jesuits and the Indians, and it spoke about a earthquake. Now, I thought this earthquake was in 1648. It was not. It was in 1663. And I compared it to biblical incidents. And as you can see, that we have an idea. We don't have an exact. We have an idea that they have added on 1,000 years. And I also am going to show you that this 1663 earthquake was massive. It was massive. Why are they not teaching us about this massive earthquake? It wasn't a localized, it was massive. Massive. This earthquake proves the mud flood theory. That's why they don't want us to know about. And this happened all the way up from Canada, all the way down to portions of Florida, and it went all the way across to New Mexico. And it went all the way back up, and it went over into the Rocky Mountains and on back up. And this earthquake is talked about during the time of King Uriah. It was freaking massive, y'all. It was massive. So let's go and learn. Why? I just got to ask this question. Why are they not teaching us about this? Why? I happened onto it by studying something else. I wasn't even looking for this earthquake. I was studying something else, and I found out about this earthquake. This changes everything. This changes the timing of the Bible, or what we call our Tanakh, and everything. It changes it all, y'all. Because this earthquake is during the time of the last king, around the time of the last king of Judah. Y'all. Before they got into the temple. Let's learn. So, in his 1663 report in the Jesuits' Relations, Father Jerome Lamont describes the Charlevoix earthquake, also known as the Great Earthquake of 1663, using language that mirrors biblical descriptions of a divine power and a natural upheaval. Lamont's comparison and the biblical recording. Lamont interpretations Lamont, I'm trying to say his name right. Lamont interprets the earthquake as a divine message, stating the heaven and earth have spoken to us to warn of the Creator Yah's power and the consequences of sin. He compares the physical transformation, mountains being swallowed up, and the earth bleaching forth flames to miraculous biblical events. While Lamont's primary lens was Catholic theology, his description of the 1663 event aligned with significant earthquakes noted in the Stone of the Tanakh, particularly the earthquake of Mount Sinai. The Tanakh describes the giving of the Torah at Sinai, where the entire mountain quaked violently, Exodus 19:18. Lamont's account of the universal earthquakes that caused prodigious transformation across thousands of leagues evoked this sense of a landscape altered divine theophany. The earthquake in the days of Uzziah, mentioned in the stone edition in Amos 1:1 and Zechariah 14:15. This was a historical Semitic event so massive that it became a chronological marker for generations. Zechariah describes people fleeing from it just as Lament describes the terror of 1663 event, which lasted for over 6 months. The division of the earth, Peleg, the stone edition notes on Genesis 10:25 discusses the earth being divided, Naphtali, during the life of Peleg. Some traditional interpretation associate this with massive geological shift, similar to Lamont's observation of the mountain disappearing and rivers changing courses, y'all. This happened in 1663. Why are they not talking to us about this happening in Canada, in America, and all the way down into Mexico? This happening in Canada and America and all the way down to Mexico. I'm going to say it again. This happened in Canada, America, and all the way down to Mexico. And there was a volcano that went off a few months later after that. Why aren't they talking about this? Why have they never taught us about this? So, key observation. Now, what they're comparing the earthquake of Mount Sinai as something biblical. They're comparing this earthquake, and they're not saying it's the earthquake of Mount Sinai. He's saying he's comparing it to the earthquake of Mount Sinai when y'all came down, and he's comparing this as big as the earth splitting over during the times of Peleg, but it goes along with the earthquake in the days of Uzziah. And this happened in 1663. So, y'all, we may have found the 1,000 years that they added to add themselves into our American timeline. They had to add an extra 1,000 years. And I believe it too. So, key observations in the 1663 account. Miraculous survival. Lamente notes that despite the furious upheavals, not a single person lost their life, which he attributed to the Creator Yah's protection. Environmental impact. He details massive landslides that liquefaction of soil and the permanent alteration of St. Lawrence River's topography. Spiritual awakening. Much like the biblical earthquakes used to spur repentance, Lamented claims that the event caused both believers and unbelievers to derive profit from their salvation. Wow, the 1663 Charlevoix earthquake was a massive event with a magnitude estimated between 7.3 and 7.9. Scientific consensus holds that it was not felt in Mexico and California and Louisiana. Some historical lores suggest it reached Mexico, but modern seismology concludes. I don't care what modern people say. They always coming back and talk about some modern shit. What did the people say? The people said it reached down there. So if the people said it reached down there, it reached down there. Stop lying. Geographical extent and proof of shaking. The earthquake was felt across approximately 750,000 square miles of eastern North America. Evidence of its reach is found in both colonial records and geological markers. Florida, there is no confirmed historical reports of it being felt in Florida. However, geological models suggest that an earthquake of this magnitude could have been felt as far as Florida or as the Carolinas, but the lack of survival colonial records from those regions at that time makes this impossible to prove. Mexico, some 19th century sources like Perlele 1891 claim that the shaking extended to Mexico and Ecuador. Modern researchers believe this report likely conflated the Quebec event with a separate powerful earthquake that happened to occur on the same day along the west coast of Mexico. So it's saying two different earthquakes happened on the same day. Whatever. New England, robust proof exists here. In Roxbury, Massachusetts, which is 600 kilometers away, Reverend S. Danford recorded that the shock broke the top of the stone chimneys and jarred pewters from shells. The Mid-Atlantic records indicate it was felt in New Holland. New Holland, y'all, which is now modern-day New York and New Jersey. Scientific and geological proof. Beyond Lamont's accounts, physical evidence confirms the earthquake's unprecedented scale. Dendrochronology tree rings. Researchers have found tree trunks buried in landslides in the Guarafre River Valley that dates precisely to 1663. These ghost forests provide biological proof of a massive soil liquefaction Lamont described. Submarine landslides, high resolution sonar bathymetry have mapped massive sediments slumps into the St. Lawrence estuary and Saguenay Forge, triggered by the 1663 events. Okay, I need to look that up because I don't know what that is. So now I got to know what it is. You know what? I remember reading a book. What book was that? Was that The View of the Hebrew, or was that the Antiquities of the Red Man? One of them talked about an earthquake and a volcano. One of the books talked about an earthquake and a volcano. I need to add that in there. I can't remember if it was The View of the Hebrew or it was the Antiquities of the Red Man. One of those books. Okay, I'm gonna put that in my mind. I'm gonna remember that. Okay. The new analysis of the magnitude of the February 1663 earthquake by John E. Abel in the Bulletin of the Seismological Society of America 2011. This is the definite modern study debunking the Mexico link while confirming the impact of New England. The Charlevoix earthquake in 1663 provided by Earthquakes Canada, which archives primary historical accounts and landslide data. Why are researchers interested in an earthquake that occurred over 300 years ago? From Natural Resources Canada focus on the buried trees and genealogical evidence. While it is physically impossible for the 1663 earthquake to have been felt in Mexico, historical confusion exists because separate powerful earthquakes occurred in Mexico on the same day. A separate Mexico earthquake, February 5th, 1663, seismologists believe a strong earthquake likely centered along west coast of Mexico occurred on February 5th, 1663. Why are y'all saying it's not the same earthquake if it happened on the same day? Conflation. Early 19th century accounts sometimes mistakenly merge these two distant events into one mega quake that supposedly stretched from Canada to Ecuador. Modern science clarifies that there's no single crustal earthquake could be felt over such a vast distance. You don't know, y'all. Y'all can do what he want. Don't tell y'all what he can do and can't do. Always trying to tell y'all something. And the Quebec event was a cold weather intraplated quake in the Canadian Shield, while the Mexico event likely occurred in a subduction zone along the Pacific coast. Quebec landslide zones in 16 in and it's not in the 1663 earthquake triggered massive landslides across approximately 24 to 31 kilometers times 2 in Quebec. Godfrey River Valley. Oh, they put it down here. The most significant site of terrestrial evidence. Landslides here bury entire ghost forests that have been dated to 1663. St. Lawrence Estuary. Sonar imaging has identified massive submarine sediment slumps triggered by the shaking. And it says Saguenay 4J. So I didn't have to look that up. It's already down here. Another key area where underwater landslides has permanently altered the seabeds. So, Mexico volcano activity timeline 1600s. Now, the Mexico Smoky Mountains Popocatépetl was highly active throughout the 17th century, with several major eruptions documented by colonial and religious chronicles. 1642, significant eruption observed. 1663, October 13 to 1665, a multi-year eruption phase began just months after February's earthquake. This period included notable ashfall and fire ballistics. 1664, one of the century's strongest eruption, producing widespread ashfalls that affected both the cities of Puebla and surrounding rural areas. 1665, documentation from this year includes drawing of the volcano eruption with ballistics. I hope I'm saying that right. Ballistics. 1666 to 1667, continue sporadic activity. 1697, October 20, another eruption characterized by fire was recorded towards the end of the century. Other volcanoes like Pico de Orizaba and San Martin Tuxtla also had recorded activity, with San Martin Tuxtla erupting notably in 1664. The integration of these texts and historical theories creates a perspective that reframes the 1663 Charles Boats earthquake not as a random natural disaster, but a significant event within a flipped and hidden geographical and spiritual timeline. The Americas as the Holy of Holies and Shem's inheritance. This framework identifies the America as the true biblical promised land and the Holy of Holies. Shem inheritance in the book of Jubilees. The earth is divided among Noah's sons. Proponents of this view argue that the Middle Earth assigned to Shem refers to the Americas, positioning it as the spiritual center of the world. 1663 context. Under this lens, the massive upheavals witnessed by Lament in 1663 where mountains were swallowed and the earth bleached flames would be seen as a divine cleansing, a signature of power within the true Holy Land. Prester John and the lineage of David. The identification of Prester John as King David, father of Solomon, links medieval legends to biblical royalty. The priest king, while mainstream history views Prester John as a medieval myth of a lost Christian king of the East, some alternative traditions linked him directly to the house of David. David in the Americas. If the Americas are the biblical land, then the empire of Prester John, noted on old maps, is interpreted as the hidden Davidic kingdom surviving in the New World long before 1492. Flip maps and the wicked scribes. The concept of the pens of the wicked scribes, referenced Jeremiah 8:8, suggests a deliberate corruption of the geographic inversion. This theory posits that maps in Isaiah and Jeremiah were flipped to move the biblical theater from Americas to the Middle East. The Jesuit role. The Jesuits, as the primary chronicles of the 1663 quake, are viewed by this school of thought as the architects of this cover-up, using the event to solidify the Canaanite Judite doctrine. And yes, because if you go read the book about the Jesuits with the Indians, they got here and these people were worshiping one God and they were fighting, because I read a little bit of that book this morning. Right now it's like 5 o'clock in the evening where I am at, so it's probably like 7 o'clock in the evening where you are. So this morning I was reading this book and they was talking about Negroes and all that kind of stuff, and they didn't talk about them coming on the ship. They talked about they got here and it was Negroes here. They literally called them Negroes. And it was Negroes and Indians. That's what the guy called them in the book. Negroes and Indians. That they were kidnapping Negroes and Indian children, and then they was teaching them, trying to teach them because they didn't understand their language. They was up in Canada kidnapping them and trying to teach them to be Christians and teach them to worship Jesus. They was kidnapping people, children, and starving them too. They were starving to death. And this was happening in the 1600s. And they said them Negroes was already here. And they didn't bring them on no ship. And that there was a war going on between the Iroquois and the Negroes. There was a war going on between the Iroquois and the Negroes. And they were helping the Iroquois Indians was helping them. The Jesuits. The Iroquois Indians was helping the Jesuits to unalive the Indians and the Negroes. Because the Indians, he was calling them, they were the Eskimos. That's who were the Indians. He said, those are the Indians that was up in Canada, because he went to Canada. And then the Negroes was down south. And the Iroquois was fighting with the Negroes. And then they were fighting over in St. Louis, over the land and stuff. The Iroquois and some of their people were getting unalive by the Indians. And he said they got there too late to save some of the Iroquois from being burned alive by the Negroes. Thought we were slaves. So why would we be fighting over a city if we didn't have no city? And he literally said it was St. Louis, and they set the St. Louis on fire. The Iroquois did. So go read and find out what's truly going on. Go read the Jesuits and the Indians. There's two different publishers of two different books telling the same story. The dude I'm talking about up here that's talking about this earthquake. And then there's another book by another guy named something Jr. He was the one talking about the Negroes being here. He called them Negroes. He didn't call them Africans. He said Negroes. Anyway, let's go. And this was in the 1600s. Sacrifices. I'm stuck on this. Why he didn't call them Africans. He called them Indians and Negroes. Sacrifice and the Dead Sea Scrolls. The distinct between the teaching of the Creator Yah and the Canaanite Judite practices found in the Stone Edition Tanakh centers on the rejection of sacrifice. Sacrifice as corruption. Proponents argue that the Dead Sea Scrolls and the certain proponent books contain remnants of a pure teaching that rejects animal and child sacrifice, which were supposedly introduced by the wicked scribes. In 1663, as a warning, in this context, lament describes of the earthquake becomes a record of a land reacting to the imposition of these foreign sacrificial doctrine on the holy ground of Shem's inheritance. The Book of Jubilees, chapter 8, provides most detailed survey of Shem's inheritance, which many researchers of the flip geography identify as the Americas due to the specific descriptions of the climate and the boundaries. And the inheritance of Shem, Jubilees 8:12 through 21, according to the Jubilees, Shem's lot is described as being in the middle earth and is characterized by a specific temperature. It is neither hot nor cold, but rather blended cold and heat. The Mount of Zion, Jubilees 8:19, states that the Mount of Zion is the center of the navel of the earth. In the context of the Americas as the holies of holies, this center is often identified with the high energy Semitic zones and the ancient mud of North America. The three holy places. The text lists three holy places: the Garden of Eden, the Holy of Holies, Mount Sinai, and Mount Zion. The boundaries. The text describes the border going through the Great Sea and toward the mountains of the north. If the map is flipped and the Great Sea is specific, then the mountains of the north are the massive ranges of the American West and the Canadian Shields. This site of the 1663 earthquake. Did y'all hear that sound confirmation, by the way? The confirmation in Jasher 7:10 through 21. The book of Jasher reinforced that Shem's lineage was intended to remain in the tents of Shem, a reference of Genesis 9:27. The division. Jasher records that during the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. Those who believe the Americas are Shem's land point to the massive geological shift, like those described in 1663, as evidence of the earth physically dividing and shifting to isolate the holies of holies from the corruption of the wicked scribes in the east. The flip maps of the 1663 quake. In this framework, when Lament writes about the Charlevoix earthquake, he isn't just describing a colonial event. He is unknowingly or deceptively documenting a visitation of the land of Shem. The Stone Edition Tanakh versus the Scrolls. While the Stone Edition follows the Masoretic text, which critics said the wicked scribes altered, the Dead Sea Scrolls and Jubilees often preserve the unflipped geographic markers that place the Garden of Eden and the center of the world in the Western. I'm being silly now, y'all, because we just got two different things showing that they lied. We got the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Book of Jubilees. They preserve the unflipped geographic markers that the place of the Garden of Eden and the center of the world is in the Western Hemisphere. Hallelujah. Woo! I found it by accident because I didn't even know that was it. I didn't know that was coming. The Jesuit cover. By framing the 1663 event as a Catholic miracle warning, the Jesuit effectively baptized the land, obscuring its true identity as the Davidic kingdom of Prester John. Comparison to the biblical King Upright earthquake. The King Upright Uzziah earthquake mentioned in Amos 1:1 and Zechariah 14:5 is described in the Stone Edition as so powerful that it split the Mount of Olives. In the Americas as Holy Land theory, the Charlevoix 1660 event is seen as a parallel or even a repeat of the Semitic judgment. I think it is the original earthquake that happened during the time of Uzziah, but I can't prove that. But I think it is. Occurring in an actual land of the prophets. Integrating these geographic identifications with the 17th century cartography reveals a hidden landscape where the American West serves as the biblical theater for the house of Israel. Now, the 1600 maps, the Regnum David and Prester John in the Americas. The map from the 16th to 17th century, such as those by Abraham Ortelas, 1573, and Joachus Hodidas, 1606, often feature Kingdom of Prester John, often features the Kingdom of Prester John. The Davidic connection, y'all. Many of these maps include a genealogy tracing Prester back to King David. While mainstream history moved this kingdom from Asia to Africa, proponents of the flipped geography point to its presence on the early world map as evidence its true location is the New World. Regnum David. Some rare maps and manuscripts charts from the Jesuits' era label vast tracts of North America territory as what? Regnum David, or the Kingdom of David, reinforcing the idea that the Americas was the seat of the Davidic line. Come on, y'all. Come on now. I can't make this up. Y'all led me to this. Somebody must have been praying about this yesterday to find out the truth. Because I didn't pray about that. All I prayed about yesterday is they get these people off our land. That's what I prayed about. That's what I've been praying about. I pray about that every day. Get these wicked people off our land. Get them off earth. That's what I keep praying. Somebody must have been praying about this truth, because I got up this morning and started reading that Jesuit and Indian book. And then it led to this. Okay. Shechem in Denver and Aspis is Aspen. The alignment of Colorado's geography with the Testament of Levi. Part of the Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs places specific biblical events in the Rocky Mountains. Shechem, Denver. In the Testaments of Levi 6, 1-5, Levi describes the destruction of Shechem. This framework identifies the modern site of Denver as the ancient Shechem, the navel or the center of the land's power. Aspen, Levi mentions finding a brazen shield on a mountain called Aspis, Testament of Levi 6:1, which is near Gabal. This links phonetically and geographically to Aspen, Colorado, placing the event of the patriarchs directly in the high Rockies. Gilead and the Rockies. Gilead mountain, mentioned in Jeremiah 22:6, describes as the land of the head of Lebanon, are translated in this view as the Rocky Mountains, the majestic head of the continent's spine, the red clay, and the Admah of the Grand Canyon. The geological evidence of the West supports the biblical definition of Adam, formed from the red clay earth. Red clay. The abundance of red clay in Colorado and the Grand Canyon is seen as the physical Admah, red earth from which man was formed. The Holy of Holies, the Grand Canyon itself, with its inner sanctum and unique mineral composites, is identified as the physical Holy of Holies, a terrestrial mirror of the celestial throne. The Judah connection and Joseph's land. Utah Ute linguistic theories suggest that the name Ute, the people of the mountain, shares the same root and translate as Judah, Ute. This identifies the Ute people as a remnant of the tribe of Judah, inhabiting their ancestral mountain strongholds. Lands of Joseph, as you noted, the Book of Mormon 1 Nephi 5:14-6 identifies the American continent as the inheritance of the seed of Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh. This aligns with the tents of Shem being located in the Americas, protected from the wicked scribes who sought to relocate the holy geographic to the east. And then there's your map right there. So showing you a map of the Holy of Holies. There it is, Holy of Holies right there. The tribe of Judah right there. This is Shechem. Let me see if I can get it bigger. So, oops, I didn't mean to go that big. So you see? So reservation, the Ute-Nite, the Ori Reservation, home of the Ute. Oh man. All of that work, I think it just went down the drain. Go back. Oh my goodness, all of that work just went down the drain. Let me see, can I get it back? I don't think I can. Oh my goodness. I think all of that work just went down the drain, y'all. Let's see what happens. 1663, Charlevoix earthquake, the thick mud. The Charlevoix earthquake, which was February 5th, 1663, was the one of the most powerful Semitic events in North America history, centered in St. Lawrence Valley. Jesuit records, Jerome Lemont in the Jesuits' Relations, Volume 8, described the event of the apocalyptic as apocalyptic. He recorded mountains being overturned, rivers disappearing, and the St. Lawrence River turning a whitish tint due to the massive underwater landslides. The mud connection. The earthquake triggered catastrophic landslides in St. Lawrence Estuary and Segway Forge. Lamanta noted that the forests were so disturbed the trees appeared drunken, and the resulting silt and mud covering vast area, which some modern mud flood theorists point to as evidence of a large-scale geographic reset during this period. A sign in the sky prelude. Lament also detailed mysterious aerial phenomenon preceding the quake, including fiery serpents in the air, sundogs, parallel. Well, I don't know what that is, so I want to find out what that is. Maybe this turned out to be a good thing. Maybe this is what y'all wanted me to see. Hebrew and indigenous connections in the Native American tribes or descendants of the lost tribes of Israel was a prominent 18th century theory. James Adair comparison in his 1775 work, The History of the American Indians. Adair spent 40 years observing the Chickasaw and the Cherokee. He claimed linguistic links, and my grandpa's Chickasaw Freeman. He's Chickasaw Freeman. Linguistic links. He noted that the Cherokee. Oh, and he's the one that came from here. He's the one that came from Colorado. He's the Chickasaw Indian that came from Colorado. But anyway, he noted the Cherokee word for man as ish or ishe, similar to the Hebrew word ish. Ritual similarities. He documented lunar retreats from ministering women and use a phrase like Yahya Alaga, which he interpreted as a variation of Yahweh. Ooh, let's find out about this Yahya Alaga. See, y'all be doing stuff. Y'all changed. He fixed it. He helped it. The Los Lunas Decalogue stones. The boulders in New Mexico featured the Ten Commandments in a form of Paleo Hebrew. While controversial, some researchers analyze it at its astronomical alignment to see if they mark the Moedim appointed times, like Passover or Tabernacle defined in the Stone Edition. Not biblical geography in Americas. The theory that the Rocky Mountains in the specific U.S. regions correspond to biblical sites relies on etymology and cartography interpretations. Regnum David and Prester John. The 16th and the 17th century maps, such as those of Abraham Ortelas, often depicted King Prester John. While usually placed in Africa or Asia, some researchers look for the Emperor David labels on early maps of the New World. So it was in the New World as evidence of a hidden Hebrew presence in America, Ute and Judah. Proponents of this view link the name of the Ute tribe to Hebrew Yehuda, Judah, suggesting the Utah region was the ancestral land of that tribe. Mount of Zion, Estes Park. The Old Man Mountain in Estes Park is sometimes compared to the town of David, described in Psalms, with the 4,000 euro stone walls alongside the Continental Divide, viewed as the spine of the world, or the borders of Shem inheritance, the cities of Lot and the Yellowstone. The specific theory suggests that the geothermal activity in the sulfur of the Yellowstone matches the biblical description of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Early maps of the Utah-Wyoming region often scrutinized for labels that lack salsa, Salt Lakes, or name associated with the tribe of Lot to support the idea of the Dead Sea of the Bible is actually found in America West. Would you like to examine Hebrew etymology connected to Ute in the 17th history? Lots? No, it was something. Oh, y'all, I guess I lost all that research I did. So, let's go and see. Let's put this in here. Let's put that in there. And fiery serpents in the air, sundogs, which frame the divine warnings. Give more details on it. And this also more In the Jesuit Relations, Volume 8, Jerome Lamont provides a detailed account of the astronomical omens that precedes the 1663 Charlevoix earthquake, describing a landscape in the sky in total upheaval. In 1663, celestial signs, fiery serpents, and sundogs. Lamante records several, it's raining, prejudices that terrified the inhabitants of New France in the months leading up to the disaster. Fiery serpents, witnessing reporting seeing serpents of fire intertwined and flying through the air, often described as bright moving meteors. Oh my goodness, we just had a bunch of meteors that illuminated the night sky like broad daylight. Oh my goodness, we just had those. What is sundogs? On two separate occasions, brilliant sundials, optical illusions where multiple suns appeared in the sky. We're seeing hanging over Quebec and Montreal. Do y'all know we're having this right now? Do y'all know we're having this right now? Voices in the air. Accounts included the sounds of phantom armies, wailing voices, and a dreadful lowing from the earth, which Lament interprets as natural warnings of a coming divine judgment. Y'all, we're having this right now. This is happening right now. I didn't know. This is why y'all messed the whole thing up so I can find this. Because I didn't have this on the study that I started in the beginning. Y'all, this is happening right now. Get ready for an earthquake and some volcanoes to go off. Linguistic comparison of Yah, Ago, and Yahuwah. In his 1775 work, The History of American Indians, James Adair argued that the southern tribes, Cherokee, Chickasaw, etc., preserved the original name of the creator. Adair's transcription. Wow, y'all, my brain is blown. We are having these things happen right now. I gotta go back up here. We just had this happen. Meteors dropping all over the place. People seeing two suns all over the place. I even got one video I just put up just yesterday about 4 moons in the sky. Sound phenomenon down in China, y'all. The people were running because there was a sound coming up from the earth. And see, he said this happened. These were omens that preceded the 1663, and this was in February 5th of 1663, the Charlevoix earthquake, y'all. Get ready. Hold on to your asses. Hold on to your asses. Hold on to your asses. It's coming. I found this. This is Yah. This is Yah. Y'all better pray for that palisade. Y'all better pray for that palisade around you. Y'all led me to this. Ain't no way I would have found this. Now, let me get back to reading. My brain is just blown because we literally just had this happen. Okay. In his 1775 work, The History of the American Indian, James Adair argued that the southern tribes, Cherokee, Chickasaw, etc., preserved the original name of the creator. Adair transcription, he noted that during sacred dances, the indigenous people would chant Yo-Hewa or Ya Algahe. He compares this directly to the Hebrew Yahweh, my brain won't let me say it, Yahuwah, suggesting it was a corruption of the Great Spirit's true name. Now, y'all, this is why I don't argue with people about you saying Yahweh, Yahuwah, Haya. Why? Because of this right here. I've read too many books where it was similar or it was something off. So to me, I take that as dialect from what town you was from. They were saying the same thing, but they came from the same. They was in different towns. That's what I get that from. That's why I don't argue with people about how you pronounce it. Okay? Because some people say ahaya haya. Some people say ahaya ahaya. Some people say haya haya. Some people say hey ya. Some people say abba ya like I do. So I don't argue with you. I don't argue with people about that because that lets me know you are taking the natural dialect from your ancestors. That's why you're saying it the way you're saying it. So I'm not going to take away from what your ancestors put in your mind. Okay? So modern context, while some modern groups use Yahuwah as a phonetic restitution of the Tetragrammaton, scholars generally view Adair's comparison as a product of the lost tribes of Israel, theory prevalent in the 1800s. Volcanoes and eclipses, 1663 to 1664. The mid-17th century was a period of intense geological and solar activity globally, often cited by those researching resets and mud floods. Volcano activity, Popocatépetl, Mexico. Historical records confirm a major eruption phase in 1663 and 1664. These eruptions produced significant ash falls across central Mexico, volcano activity, and cinder cones in California. Geological data suggests an eruptive episode at Cinder Cone Leson volcano area occurred around 1666. Solar eclipse, North America. Lament specifically noted a solar eclipse that occurred several months after the earthquake in 1663, further deepening the colonial sense of apocalyptic dread. Would you like to analyze European maps that specifically labels Utah, Colorado regions with the tribe a lot? Yes. And it was something else that I had on my study that I thought was important. Oops. The Book of Jubilees, found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, outlines a tripartite division of the earth, where the land of Shem includes central high altitude regions often identified by proponents of American biblical theories as the continental divide. 17th century maps, such as those of Nicholas Sanson, depicted the Great Salt Lake region in Utah, leading to the speculative associated with the land of Lot and the kingdom of David. Furthermore, 17th century accounts describe significant mud covering settlements and altered landscapes following earthquakes. Topics you raised: the mud flood and the kingdom of Prester John in America, and the Smithsonian cover up form a complex tapestry of alternative history that challenges mainstream archaeological and geological narrative. The mud flood and the 1663 reset, it's literally a reset, y'all. The 1663 Charlevoix earthquake is often cited in mud flood research because the extreme physical change documented by the Jesuit explorers. The records: Jerome Lemont described the landscape shifting so violently that new lakes were formed and mountains were swallowed up. Settlement coverage. The proponents of the theory argued that this event, combined with others like the 1664 Mexican eruption, provided a natural cover for a global reset of civilization, burying advanced stone buildings often attributed to a Tartaria under layers of soot. There's your Tartaria right there. That's why they don't want you to know about the 1663 and 1664 earthquakes and volcanoes, people. So, proof versus interpretation. While mainstream scientists view these as catastrophic but natural landslides, researchers in the mudflood community see them as evidence of intentional erasing of the old world order in the Americas. Prester John, Tartaria, and Regnum David. The idea that the Emperor of Prester John or a Kingdom of David existed in the Americas is supported by specific 16th and 17th century cartography maps. Early maps, such as those by Abraham Argolas. Let's do this right here so we can look this up. Boom, boom, bam, bow. Presbyterian Linus in unexplored territories. Prester John as David. In some interpretations, mythical Prester John, priest king Prester John, is identified as descendants of King David or the biblical David himself, ruling a holy of holies in the America West. Aboriginal identity. The natural often aligned with the view that the original inhabitants were copper-colored Adamites, the true Israelites, and that the term Indian was later labeled to hide their lineage, the Grand Canyon, Goshen, and Smithsonian. The theory of the Smithsonian cover-up in the Grand Canyon stems from the 1909 article in the Arizona Gazette. Kincaid discovery. G.E. Kincaid allegedly found an Ethiopian Oriental cave system filled with mummies and hieroglyphs. Government secrecy. Theory suggests that the Grand Canyon is actually Goshen or Zion, and that the Smithsonian Institute systematically removes artifacts to suppress the truth of ancient Hebrew Egyptian presence. Forbidden zones. Approximately 90% of the canyon is off limits or requires strict permits, which many interpret as a dead zone protected by the government to hide these ruins. Biblical geography and land of Shem. The Book of Jubilees, found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, describe the division of the earth among Noah's sons. Shem's lot. Jubilees 8:12-21 describe Shem's inheritance as the middle of the earth, contained in the Garden of Eden, Mount Zion, and Mount Sinai. Continental divide. Some researchers identified the mountain range of Rapha, which is in the book of Jubilees, or the waters of the abyss mentioned in Jubilees, with the Rocky Mountains and the Grand Canyon, the River of Eden, placed in the center of the biblical world in the Western Americas. The exploration of the Americas as the true biblical landscape involves a synthesis of the 17th century cartography and sacred geography found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The land of Shem's and Jubilees, Dead Sea Scrolls. In the book of Jubilees, chapter 8 and 9, the earth is divided into three portions for the sons of Noah. Shem's inheritance is described as the center of the earth and the land blended with temperature, neither hot nor cold. The three holy places, Jubilees 8, 19, and 21, explicitly states that Shem territory contains the three most holy places on earth: the Garden of Eden, Mount Sinai, and Mount Zion, the navel of the earth. Mount Zion is described as being in the middle of the navel of the earth. Researchers identified the Americas as that land, pointed to the continental divide as the spine of the world, and the Rocky Mountains as the ancient mountain range of Rapha, mentioned in the text. The River Eden, the waters of the deeps, and the river system mentioned in Jubilees often compare to the Grand Canyon River. I'm sorry, I said the Grand Canyon River. Often compared to the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon, which sometimes suggests the true site of Goshen. The 17th century maps, Ratgum David and Prester John, during the golden age of cartography, European map makers included semi-mythical kingdoms that may now believe were located in Americas. Empire of Prester John. On Abraham Ortella's 1573 map, Prester John is labeled as descendant of King David. Whoa. Oh, I gotta see this map, baby. While often associated with Ethiopia or Asia, the New World was frequently mapped with these labels before colonial names like Virginia and New England became standard. What? What? These niggas hiding shit. Ragnum David. Whoa, I gotta read that again. Prester John is labeled as descendant of King David. While often associated with Ethiopia and Asia, the New World was frequently mapped with these labels before the colonial names like Virginia and New England became standard. Come on, y'all. Come on. You can't make this up. Ragnum Davis. Some 17th century Dutch maps like those by Frederick de Witt, 1660, feature intricate cartouches showing indigenous people with gold bars at their feet and biblical style nobility, which researchers used to argue the kingdom of David was a known American reality. Oh, I gotta see this too. I gotta see this too. I gotta get pictures of this. I gotta get pictures of that. California as an island. Early 17th century maps, such as the 1625 maps by Henry Briggs, depict California as an island. This geographical area is interpreted by some as remnant of an older pre-mud flood map that showed the land before Semitic shift changed the coastline. The Smithsonian and the Aboriginal connection. The theory suggests that the Smithsonian Institute has systematically removed artifacts that prove the copper-colored indigenous people or the Adamites of the Bible. Biblical descriptions, passages in Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel describe the Israelites with skin like burnished brass, copper, which aligns with the physical description of the Aboriginal inhabitants of the American before 1492 of America before 1492. Let me read that again. Biblical description, passages in Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel describe the Israelites with skin like burnished brass or copper, which aligns with physical descriptions of the Aboriginal inhabitants of America before 1492. Hidden antiquities. The alleged 1909 discovery of Egypt ruins in the Grand Canyon by G.E. Kincaid is often cited as reason the Smithsonian strict control over certain dead zones in the canyon, aiming to prevent the public to realize that the America West is the true Holy Land. Now we finna go see about this right here. I want to see this. The cartouches in Frederick DeWitt's map, particularly the 1660 Novatos America de Soto and his later 1680 world maps, are renowned for their elaborate and symbolic imagery. Researching in alternative history often point to these specific visual elements as evidence of a lost sophisticated civilization or hidden biblical kingdom of David in Americas. Key visual elements of DeWitt's cartouches. I gotta do this, y'all. I gotta go and do this for y'all. Y'all want the truth? Truth will set you free and set you apart. The truth will set you free and set you apart. Why? Ways, kinds. Let me stop being silly. Key visual elements in DeWitt's cartouches. Biblical style nobility. DeWitt often depicts indigenous leaders not as savages, but as regal figures wearing flowing classical robes, crowns resembling European and Middle Eastern biblical royalty, wealth, and gold. In several versions of the American map, the title cartouche shows indigenous people presenting large quantities of gold, silver, and precious gems, sometimes shown as stacked bars or heavy ignots to Europeans looking figures and their own nobility. The Golden Age synthesis. These images were a hallmark of the Dutch Golden Age, where map making was as much as artistic storytelling and marketing the uptapping riches of the New World as it was about geography, interpretations of imagery. For those exploring King David or Precious John narratives, these artistic choices are seen as more than just flattery for investors. Direct documents. Proponents argue that the Dutch map makers like De Witt and Nicholas Visker were documenting a real high functioning civilization that they later helped erase through renaming it. Cultural links. The biblical clothing is cited as evidence that the map makers recognized the indigenous people, Hebrew or Semitic roots, often described as copper-colored Adamites. Hidden treasures. The prominence of gold in these maps is viewed as proof that the American West, the land of promise, was once the source of gold used in King Solomon's temple. Did you know that Yah promised Jacob a place full of copper and gold? Copper. He made sure to say copper. Go look it in the red. It's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It don't say it in this book. It's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It don't say it in y'all Bible. It says it in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So let's go look at this map. Oh, it's too small. See, can we see something here? See something here. I might have to download a different versions because the Americas. Let's see, I might have to download a different version. See. I'm finna go look. Let's go home. Let's go look this up ourselves. See if we can get something big enough. Can't see it. I can't. Let's see. Maybe we can get some better pictures of this. Okay, let's go to the other thing. Hopefully I don't mess this up. Let's do this. Page to pictures. Brain test. See, can we make it bigger? Can't see it. What was I just saw something? Where did it go? I'm always losing something. Okay, look at that one. Look at David. He was cutie pie. He was a cutie pie. He was a cutie pie, y'all. David was a little cute something another. Let's see what else we can find. Pastor John. So we just saw that one. Look at David. Oh, he's a cute self. Man, he got lips like my grandson. That's my grandson looks like. Let's see. Let's see what else. Let me see. Let's go to the other one. See what this. Pictures. Oh, images. Click images. I don't know what I'm looking for here, y'all. I'm just looking. Maybe y'all catch something that I don't catch. Be honest, I don't have my glasses on so I can't really truly see a lot of this writing. And maybe y'all catch something that I don't. Excuse me. Let's see. I mean, what was that down there? Rio de Paz, La Florida, Aguada, I think that's what I'm reading. Canal de Bahama. Bahia de Boxos? What is Boxos? I don't know. I never heard of that. Rio de Paz de Maria. Bahia de Boxos. So, oops. Let's see what else we can find. There's some names on it. Maybe some of y'all can recognize some of these things. Monte de Morta. Val de Alfano des. Salinas. Valencia. In America? That This is Valencia. This is American map. Why is there a Valencia in America? Bomahor Arago de Nanar at Leia. I gotta put my glasses on. Let me put my glasses on because I can't see this. My glasses at. But y'all, did y'all see that? That was a good find I found earlier with that with those omens. We having those same omens right now. Ohio just got one of them things over there. Over there, that same thing he was talking about. And then over up in Canada, I showed you the video of those 4 moons. Okay, y'all, I got my glasses on. Maybe I'll be able to see a little better. That's at ATALA. Why? Can I click on that? No. Cannot. Petres? Portacilla? Macro Camp? Let's see. See, now we know that's got to be what? Louisiana, Texas right here? That's got to be Louisiana, Texas right there. That look like Louisiana right there. So let's see what's over here. It looks like ENOUES Torres. CAGUILLADA POBLA. And that's LLARGA. Hold on. I thought I heard somebody at the door. I guess I don't know what I'm hearing. It might have been the neighbors too, because remember, I live in an apartment building. So, what is that? BENIMADOLOMBAYCATADAO. Maybe we can look some of these things up and find out what they're saying, translated into our current language. BENIFANO LOLOIAN. Ain't that what that says? Lolo N SURRA. I think that's what that says right there. Taurus. All right. Let me see. Let's go look up some more stuff. And these are Florida maps. Y'all see this? This is in America. AVLVOS. That look like fire. Does that look like fire to you? Hecla. Medela Meadowland, Kirk de Chauffeur, that's what I think it says. Sometimes if you do this, if you go like that, it'll outline it. And then you can do this. You can go right here. Do this right here. Then go back. Go to Google Lens. Go back. Click on that. And translate. English. Let's see what it says. The source language is primarily Latin, with some places in Old Germanic languages like Icelandic and German. Recall the thermal springs were very different, which changes into red. Horses have such speed, chill, that travel 20 miles. A church near the monastery. Westminster Islands. What is Westminster Islands? And this is America, y'all. I thought they said we didn't have no horses. A school is said to be near. Thermal springs very different. A school is said to be near. Thought we was uneducated. White changing into red. Perpetual damage by fire and snow. Vomiting stones. Horses have such speed here. They travel 20 miles. A church is near the monastery. Many marine sea cows. Ravens and white falcons. Westminster Islands. Okay. Yes, that was good. So if you want to translate a picture, just all you got to do. Let me go back to that other picture I was doing. Not my legs. Not my legs. Let's see. What's the one we was looking at a minute ago? Let's go here. Screenshot it. I'm gonna end this video because I got something I gotta do. But I just want to translate this one. Translate to English. The new accurate map of Hungary, Transylvania, Siberia, Roma, Bulgaria, Walcha, Moldavia, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Dalmatia, especially a part of Danube River described. Okay, so this Hungary. What about the American ones? America. So let's do this one. Let's translate it. Merdeve Grand. I thought it translated to English. The text image is in French and Latin. Oh, Sea of Virginia of New England, Great North Sea, the Bermuda Islands, Lecce Islands, Tropic of Cancer, of the Plate, of Sea Branchers, Lentes Fortes Love, as the thing is, so is hope. Acre Florida. Accurate delineation of the most famous region of Louisiana, or in French, Louisiana, and Canada, Florida, named in North America, Mississippi, and Street, St. Louis. So let's look at this picture again. Look at all them black folks. Look, black, black, black. Look. Why they on the map? Why? Why? Right there, there's another person right there. That person's black because it's black on, look. Black, 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 or so-called black, black, black. Oh my goodness. It's been right in front of us the whole time. All right, y'all. This is what I'm going to end this with. Let me make sure I got all the little side ones that I was going to do. Get out of that, out of that. So let me see. Emperor John, maps of the early. Abraham Otellis. Let's see. I think we looked at that already. Yeah, I think we're done. Smells so good out there, y'all. It's actually raining. We needed some rain so bad. Like we really needed some rain. What is these animals they're talking about? Don't that look like a mermaid to you? Don't that look like a mermaid? Weird ass stuff they were seeing back then. All right, y'all, I'm going to end this video. Let's give our praise and all glory to the Creator, y'all. Pray for a Palisade around y'all because y'all saw that. Y'all saw that with me. He was having the same omens that we're having as you speak to this day. Ohio just had a meteor fly over it. So give him all the praise, give him all the glory, and pray that the Creator, Yah, will protect you from anything that is happening. All praises to him and him alone. Hallelujah.